how did that pass the speechwriter thing? You know, I mean, this is an elementary mistake, and it happens. I've made those mistakes, and this is not a basis for firing anyone, State House. It's just to make them better, to make sure that the script is passed through. You know, when I've gone through this job, and whenever the paper passes through me and I sign on it, I am responsible for every word. I used to work for Mr. Odinga, so I want to tell the young fellows there, watch the lines.
Watch the lines.
Watch the lines.
You were also the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Zakaria, with all his accomplishment, one of the best journalists we have on earth, almost messed up his career. By just saying something which he should have acknowledged in terms of the source. This is the kind of things that you take for granted, but it ends up messing up your career or something.
Yeah. So just be cognizant, even as you blow, you want to keep yourself cool. That also is being captured by the mic, so a bit of interference. Okay, thank you for that. I really do appreciate. So that is sort of a plagiarism.
Yes.
And to try and put the word plagiarism with the president does not really go down well.
Yes, and it does come out in good taste. When, in essence, as he's right to put it, if you say, as Winston Churchill,
that's okay.
Said, or as Leo Tolstoy
said,
help Kenyans by saying who Leo Tolstoy is, because this is not a household name in one of the Karenjin, Somali, or a Mijikenda. You know, it's not. So tell us, Tolstoy was a Russian writer or philosopher.
Indeed.
And they should be quoting African writers.
Yes, frequently.
Frequently. I mean,
Chinua
Achebe, Sheikh Anta Diop. You just take 5 minutes, Allah Rahmat, to put. Yes. You will get great quotes from some of the most towering political, social, intellectual. For an example, there is this lady from Ghana called
Ai Koima.
Not Ai. She's a woman.
No,
she's called
the Nigerian.
No, she's Nigerian. She's Nigerian. Yes.
The one who have bits of moon.
She gave this interview about the 500 years of relationship with she's called
yes.
I'll remember. But anyways, we should quote more African writers. Rather than Leo Tolstoy is a great writer, but use more of our writers, our philosophers, our thinkers, and that is going to make the thing more appropriate.
And our wisdom as well.
And our wisdom as well, our cultural wisdom. Yeah. And I think that's very important. The speech was wonderful to those people at State House. Next time, give credit where it's due.
All right, the speech writers have heard you. And of course, they will try and rectify that from State House, whoever is a speechwriter there.
But we must recommend, and I wrote this in a Twitter post. The writers of the speech of the president are now doing a great job.
Yeah,
I was listening to his speech. Yeah. In Djibouti,
it was very
I said, this is exquisite.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. I'm saying this because I edited President Kenyatta's speeches. Yeah. The book is in the store now.
Yeah, I saw the book. I
saw the book. Yeah, I edited, and I was saying, why are you treating the president like a scholar? You have to read a whole inaugural lecture every public holiday. Make it short. Make it sweet for Kenyans to understand and you know that kind of thing. So I think we want to again commend them because they're doing
a great job.
They're keeping it short. I remember the President Kibaki, we used to say 3 points. Those are enough because there's a tomorrow. If there's something you wanted to say today and there was no space for it, there is a tomorrow. You can always have it in the other speech.
He was very articulate.
So with the Kibaki, and thanks to Nick Wanjohi and the team, it was 3 points, and we all knew. You would make it slightly longer during a public holiday, like Jamhuri or Madaraka. But the other speeches were just 3 points. Because Kenyans are in a hurry to get something else, and they need to carry the message home. The question was, how do you enable Kenyans to retain that message in terms of what you're writing? And we would always find ourselves struggling to find something that will, stick into the mind. I wasn't frequently in the team writing, but I was always fascinated. You remember when Kibaki went out to campaign for this constitution, and you invent the term the new Kibaki. You know, that catches the minds of Kenyans. So I want to say the team that is doing the president's speeches and the whole thing are doing a great job. They're making life easier for us now, and you can relate to that. His debate on the dollar is basically, you know, what do you call it, trailblazing. Yeah, the way he articulated why Kenya should not pay Djibouti in dollars, and Djibouti should not pay Kenya in dollars. We should be able to trade within. You're not attacking the American dollar. No. You are simply saying it's absurd to insist that if I have to buy Djiboutian fish for the Kenyan market, I have to pay it in dollars. And sometimes we don't have the dollars to pay the same. Why can't we pay Djibouti in our own currency and Djibouti pay us in their own currency?
So I said last time.
Yeah, and our banks neutralize that. I liked the way he articulated in the speech.
Yes, yes, and you know that there's to add, I just remembered the name, I looked it up actually. The lady is called Ama Ata Aidu. That's why I could not remember it. Okay. She's a playwright, one of the great playwrights from Ghana. And also on this point, Professor Kagwanja has brought up, there's now an African Exchange Bank.
Yes, African Exchange Bank, yes.
And I think this is just great news. We have to push the margins of the currency debate to its ends, because you know, last time I said that if you take 10,000 shillings and go to the airport in Addis Ababa,
yes,
you are not going to be given money. They will ask you, they will say, Asagawa, give us some US dollars. They will say, Ishi. So, you know, we have to be very serious about what our currency does. We can't have 54 currencies in this continent. It's ridiculous.
Indeed. All right, let's just finish up on the paper review, and I like what I'm hearing. I think this is good advice as well from you, Professor Kagwanja and Hamid Hashi. Still on the Standard, as you can see it on the split screen there, shock of 200,000 students surviving on others' money is what we have on the teaser, and why Ruto Raila duel could save Siaya's Odwal, that is the deputy governor. And KQ's new deal with Emirates. Find it out, all laid out for you on page 24 of the Standard this morning. Kega's Jubilee faction pulls out of Azimio. And as I have mentioned, we were discussing CCTV, why you need to be cognizant of the fact that if that particular scope of the view leaks into the neighbor's compound as well, capturing it, that also could be a magazine is in for you today. It's a pull-out magazine that comes in handy for you every Wednesday inside the Standard. 4 taxes set to dent your profits. Well, you can look out on what all these taxes are all about. Inside the Standard this morning, the Daily Nation, why super rich are fleeing Kenya. 800 individuals fell off list of country's dollar millionaires in 2022. This is a report there. Some $100 millionaires fled Kenya last year for countries with less taxation, better political stability, and stronger economic growth. And 100 more are expected to follow suit this year, according to a new report on migration trends of the world's tycoons. This is not a good news, Professor Peter Kagwanja, especially when we're talking about right now taxation, and we need to, you know, generate more revenue so that we can spur and stimulate the economy. But we have been having this case of the rich, the Nova rich also just fleeing off the country because of the business environment that is not very friendly, high cost of energy, the taxation regime that is always clawing on their profits as well. So the business environment is not very friendly. So when we see the super rich really fleeing, and also from the Nairobi Security Exchange as well, the flight of the capital, that should be a niggling worry for us.
I think that's what you should be concerned with. We all know transitions, particularly political transitions, are very, very uncertain moments. People have all manner of fears. By transition, we mean when we have one regime leaving and another one coming in. Like we had the Moi regime leaving and the Kibaki regime coming in. We had the Kibaki regime leaving, the Uhuru Kenyatta regime coming in, and now we have the Uhuru Kenyatta's regime leaving, and we have William Ruto's coming in. For a country like Kenya, it's so important that we pay attention to some of the fears that people have. and also the policies, the shift in policies, particularly if you, that's why I liked President Moi's, transition from Jomo Kenyatta to President Moi. Moi spent about 4 years assuring Kenyans that there's nothing that's going to change. That's where Nyayo came in. Nitafuata Nyayo za Mzee Kenyatta. Now, the whole purpose of that was to assure those Kenyans who were fearing that the demise of President Kenyatta was going to be, to bring rain, hailstones, fire and brimstone. Yeah, that did not happen. The change, of course, came later, but it came after 5 years. So the country was a little bit calm and quiet. Now, what we are seeing is that there is a lot of anxiety that's coming around. These demonstrations, protests are not doing us any good, particularly for investors. Let's face it, they are not. They are not. Second, that when we begin we talk for 3 months about unfair taxation, it might be fair. In government's view, it might be the right thing to do. But remember, in politics, perception is more important than reality sometimes. You might be making a powerful case of why the financial bill is okay. Officially, it might make sense. My friend, Professor Juguna Ndongo, might actually be exercising the akim, the best in his professional career. But is that how Kenyans see it? No. And the perception of Kenyans is what is going to determine whether they invest or don't invest. Now, the problem we had as Kibaki was coming in, and what helped us after 2 or 3, was the feeling that everything is going up. The economy is growing. So many people went to Geneva in their banks outside, and the so-called havens, financial havens outside, and brought their money back. And therefore they started buying property, they started investing in the country, and the economy grew. I am telling you, a study by former President Thabo Mbeki of South Africa on financial flows on the continent indicated that if the money that is flowing out of the continent through either paying whatever we are paying outside, what they're calling illicit flows, not the formal flows, illicit, together with our own people taking their monies to safe havens outside their countries, is enough to transform Africa into major global economic zone. And therefore, policies should be directed to reassuring those who are already here, those who are investing here, our industrialists, whether they're Indians, they're Chinese, or whoever they are, as long as they have invested here. The last point, I went to Ethiopia over the weekend, other weekend, and I was touring one of the industrial parks in that country. And some parts are shut down completely. The steel is operating, I think, three months in a year. The aluminium is 3 months in a year, because that's the only space they have to market. And what is happening? They're recycling old metal, and when you do that, you also mean that those who are vandalizing public assets in order to sell the metal have a market for vandalism. Now, the point is, during transitions like this one, the government need to be very careful to reassure Kenyans that you are safe investing here than taking safe havens outside the country.
Thank you. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to add to this. I think that I've never seen this country the way it is for as long as I can remember. And I'm not making this stuff up. Ordinary Kenyans are feeling the brunt of probably the most devastating economic times since independence. Every home, hamlet, shop, driver, every activity and every person is up in arms about the cost of living, the inability of having cash in their pocket, and the general breakdown of the economy of this republic. Dubala suggests to you one very critical thing. It's important for us as public leaders to speak on the public's behalf, because it is the sovereign people who are governed by the government they elected that we ought to criticize when it is correct and praise when it is doing the right thing. And the barometer of my economics is, and I want to buttress my senior learned's view about what's called the environment or the feeling of what the country is going through. How perception has a lot to do more than substance most of the time. And I agree with him 100%. The perception of every Kenyan today is that the government, led by President Ruto, is in a bunker. They are digging in. They are not reaching out and saying, and this, I said this in the very 2 days after the election. I said he was going to be a one-term president. He's going to ruin the economy, and he's not going to bring people together. And he's on that road. And unless the president changes course radically, I guarantee you by the end of the year that this country will just come to a standstill. And we're here to help, not to criticize as well. So I'm going to add a few solutions to the problem, if they can hear it. I have you know, there's a lady here in Harlingham where I buy my fruit. She's called Catherine. Catherine sells fruit, and there's a lineup on her table, and she probably makes between 5,000 to 10,000 shillings a day, which is very good money. And she makes an amazing fruit platter. About yesterday, the city council came and wrecked her shop. Day before yesterday, literally destroyed it. It's just Chaka Road near Yaya. And as I pass there, you know, I always go and eat this fruit with the people to hear what they have to say, because that's how you get to know what this country is going through. And I want to tell the governor of Nairobi to rebuild that young lady's fruit store, because it serves the offices around there. People who earn much more money go there because they're on a diet. They want to make sure they're not overweight. Poor people spend 50 or 100 shillings to have a nice fresh piece of fruit platter. Now, if you destroy the hustler, the person who is hustling on that street, through the city council askari, that means that the entire hustler philosophy and manifesto was a joke. That's one thing. We have to support these small mama and papa stores in this country in this time of economic trouble. The second thing that the governor of Nairobi can do is that the entire infrastructure of Nairobi is in the pits. There are thousands of young men and women who are willing to work for 1,000 a day to get rid of the sidewalks and put new planks onto the sidewalks, and to drain the drainages which are full of trash. It's called a beautification program. You can employ about 20 to 30,000 young men and women at 1,000 shillings, and this will have a major impact on the slums, and it will have a major impact on the food and the food that these poor people are taking home. These are very short term, 100-day or 50-day terms, to help in beautification of the city, the pavements, the garbage dumps, the places where the water goes through. You can have armies of young men and women who are unemployed, who can make 1,000 shillings and they will take the job. And they can, and the money they will use on food, they'll use on electricity, they'll use on the basic things. And that will start making the money to circulate. And you could do this in all the 47 counties. You know, I've talked about the big ideas, the big economic ideas, and of course the government is not going to listen to that because that's their priority. But what I'm talking about is the little things that they can do to make the day make ends meet for many people in this city of about 5 to 6 million people.
Thank you. All right, we need to wind up on that, but before I do that, Dr. Simeon Sungi is joining us this morning. It's been a while since he was on this table. I think last year is the last time we saw you.
That's correct.
Yeah, you can tell us where you have been. What some of clandestine things you've been doing.
Thank you for having me in the show, and I really missed coming here. And my brothers here, good to see all of
Ndugu
you.
kutoka Tanzania tunakusalimia sana bwana. Kaka brother bwana, karibu bwana.
Thank you so much. No, I think I want to agree with my brothers here that these are tough economic times. As my brothers stated, I'm from the neighboring country here.
We're the same country.
Yeah, the ability for common citizens to be able to weigh in these very important issues relating to their welfare,
Yes,
is very significant, and we cannot underestimate what is happening in Kenya. And perhaps, as I've said several times, this is perhaps a good blueprint or an example of how a democratic country can work. Now, there's a lot of discussion and debates as to whether the government is on the right track, the administration is on the right track, and the finance bill is being discussed. It's a hot potato. While all those discussions are important, I think to me the ability of a common mwananchi to weigh in and really we are seeing the Constitution of Kenya coming alive. People are participating in the process is an important aspect which I can't overstate.
And then, of course, we shall, you being a criminal justice lawyer as well, and a sociologist, there is also the African court that will be established in Arusha. And we'll also be looking at that. What does it really portend, especially when we talk about the African courts. But we want to take a short break right now. So when we circle back,